Ferrari's hiding a brilliant budget cap strategy, and once you understand what they've been doing behind the scenes, it all makes perfect sense. The choice made over the winter in Maranello was a deliberate one. Ferrari spent less on the base development of the SF-26, specifically to keep more resources available for in-season upgrades. Toto Wolff was genuinely caught off guard by the pace of those updates, but the story doesn't stop there. At Silverstone, Ferrari uncovered yet another hidden weapon. The SF-26 no longer suffers from drag. The Maranello wing is efficient even in its closed configuration. Ferrari reintroduced the floorboards from the start of the season, and the result was the highest top speeds on the straights of any car at that race weekend. That's an advantage only Ferrari and Mercedes currently share. Meanwhile, the Federation is preparing to shake everything up for 2027. A floor shortened by 300 millimeters, no more creative diffuser solutions, goodbye to the spoon-shaped wing, and the Ferrari FTM system gets permanently shelved. Let's break all of this down properly. Ferrari made a very clear decision over the winter, one that is now giving them a real spending edge over their competitors. This was a plan designed specifically around the budget cap. Over the past few weeks, controversy flared up following comments from Toto Wolff, who suggested that Ferrari simply couldn't maintain this development pace for the entire season. Frédéric Vasseur responded with visible frustration. Ferrari has already introduced two major upgrade packages, one at Miami and one in Spain, plus the Aduo 1 update that arrived in Austria. The SF-26 has improved by somewhere between 7 and 8 tenths of a second, and 2 race victories are already in the books. Mercedes, by contrast, hasn't been reliable on track, and their internal update processes haven't been efficient either. In recent race weekends, reliability has been their #1 enemy. The move from Maranello is genuinely clever. Saving on the base concept to free up budget for in-season development was exactly the right strategic call, and it's working. Ferrari is surprising Wolff in a way he simply didn't anticipate. The simulations had Ferrari as much as 6 or 7 tenths slower at Spa, but the reality on track has told a very different story. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of this new regulatory era. At Maranello, internal predictions had the SF-26 as many as 6 or 7 tenths off the pace at certain circuits, including Spa. Similar assessments were coming out of rival teams as well. Nobody is getting close to the level of simulation accuracy we had grown used to in previous years because today's Formula One cars are extremely sensitive to real-world conditions. An article by Giuliano Ducessa in the Corriere della Sera explains it well. The algorithm adjusts performance based on the actual aerodynamic load generated on track. But variations in grip change traction output. Traction then changes how electrical energy is deployed, and at that point the simulation starts to lose its precision. It becomes a chain of events that no model can currently reproduce with full accuracy. Ferrari has focused its work on 3 key areas: aerodynamics, traction, and electrical deployment. Each one is just as important as the others. If any one of them is out of its window, performance collapses and the setup falls apart. Ferrari has been the team that has modified its car the most across the recent race weekends, and now comes the stunning discovery from Silverstone. Ferrari found yet another strength in the SF-26, one that no other team currently has. Going into the British Grand Prix, Ferrari looked set to be the 4th fastest team. The long straights and limited opportunities to recharge the hybrid system seemed to favor the competition, but the circuit told a completely different story. A significant part of that success came directly from the power unit and energy management strategy. From Friday's free practice sessions, it was clear that Ferrari was using its electrical energy in a different way from its rivals. The engineers chose to deploy maximum available power only between the end of Sector 2 and through Sector 3, relying instead on the strong competitiveness of the chassis to limit losses in Sector 1. It was a winning strategy, and other teams began to copy it as the weekend progressed. But behind that excellent energy management, there was also serious work done to reduce aerodynamic drag. The SF-26 was designed from the start as a car capable of generating very high downforce, a characteristic that in the early races of the season was hurting straight-line performance. Today, however, the quality of the chassis allows engineers to sacrifice some cornering performance in exchange for greater efficiency at high speed. To achieve this, Ferrari reintroduced the floorboards used at the start of the season, setting aside the most recent developments temporarily. This configuration reduces aerodynamic load, but makes the car significantly more efficient on the straights. The floor itself also appears to have received some refinements, and a slimmer bodywork profile has contributed to further reducing drag. The most effective weapon on the SF-26, though, remains the Macarena rear wing. During the design phase, Ferrari appears to have succeeded in creating a wing that is extremely efficient even in its closed configuration. At Silverstone, specifically on the straights where active aerodynamics could not be activated, the SF-26 recorded the highest top speeds of any car. That is remarkable. On the straights without active aero, Ferrari still has the highest speeds. That is a massive competitive advantage. In upcoming races, Ferrari could remove the small fin behind the exhaust to gain even more power at faster circuits, a feature that at the moment only Ferrari and Mercedes appear to possess. Now for the big news about the future. The Federation has officially, though informally, distributed the first draft of the technical regulation changes for 2027 cars. The technical staff at the Federation's Paris headquarters identified the key areas where vertical load contribution needs to be reduced. The intention was to act early and keep future cars within acceptable speed parameters. This course correction came after just one season, driven not only by the desire to reduce downforce, but also to limit the race toward micro-solutions that had started to increase design complexity considerably. One of the most significant changes involves the front section of the floor. The Federation has decided to shorten the assembly formed by the T-tray and bib by approximately 300 millimeters, reducing both its width and its extension beneath the chassis. New geometric limits will also apply to the flow entry at the floor. Similarly, greater restrictions have been introduced at the floor's leading edge. The 5 elements currently permitted, those small serrations along the leading edge, will be reduced to just 3. The rear section of the floor is probably the area that has received the most regulatory clarification. The Mercedes case, which emerged during the 2026 Canadian Grand Prix, had highlighted how certain definitions in the regulations left room for very aggressive interpretations. That situation triggered a much broader review. The small extensions present on the diffuser's exit edge will disappear entirely. Not only will solutions in the Mercedes style, already banned this year, be prohibited, but even the less extreme versions seen on Ferrari and Haas will no longer be permitted. The rear of the car will also undergo immediately recognizable changes. The Federation has reduced the available volume in the central zone of the wing and decreased the height of the main element by approximately 20 millimeters. The direct consequence is the disappearance of spoon-shaped wing configurations. The wing will tend toward a much more uniform profile along the main plane. The possibility of developing extensions outside the regulatory wing volume is eliminated. All elements must remain entirely within the wing box, preventing the proliferation of appendages like those seen on the Mercedes. The Federation is also introducing a new structural element between the 2 rear pillars. The geometric definitions of the exhaust exit have been completely rewritten, effectively marking the end of systems like the one Ferrari has been running, the FTM, the flick tail mode. Ferrari has been one of the most creative teams with these kinds of solutions, and now all of them are banned. So let's recap everything. Ferrari has a smart budget cap plan, spending less on the base concept to fund more upgrades during the season. Simulators are off, nobody is predicting performance accurately anymore. Ferrari has found a new weapon. The SF-26 no longer suffers from drag, thanks to the reintroduced floorboards and a Macarena wing that is efficient even in closed configuration. Top speeds on the straights are the highest of any car, even without active aero, an advantage shared only with Mercedes. Loic Serra's team is working on a 3rd upgrade package for Zandvoort after the summer break, and Diego Tondi was at Silverstone confirming aerodynamic development remains the priority. The Federation is overhauling everything for 2027. Floor shortened by 300 millimeters. Only 3 leading edge serrations instead of 5. No more creative diffuser interpretations, no more spoon wing, and the Ferrari FTM definitively archived. It will be a genuine technical revolution,